Hi everyone, welcome back to my lab and today's video, which is going to be a review on the new LimeCrime Venus Immortalis Eyeshadow Palette. I have a lot of new eyeshadow palettes in my collection, including the Pat McGrath ones, the Natasha Denona ones, and so on, including the Norvina palettes as well. But I see a lot of them in my feed and I wanted to give you an option for something a little bit different. So I thought I would review the LimeCrime palette for you today. In my video, I'll show you how I created this eye look and give you a little bit of information about the palette, as well as show you some swatches. But before we get into all that, if you're new here, I'm Yori. Thank you so much for clicking on my video. I hope that you will like it and enjoy it and consider joining my makeup family. I upload 3 times every single week on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. Maybe hit the bell so that you don't miss an upload. Now, without any further delay, let's go ahead and get into the video. The LimeCrime Venus Immortalis palette is basically the last palette in the Venus series. LimeCrime has 3 other palettes in this line of this size, which are 8 pan eyeshadow palettes. They also have 2 that are XL, and those are much larger palettes. I think it's 18 pans. I don't remember right off the top of my head, but they also have some minis, which I think they might have 4 minis at this time. Their initial launch was from the 8 pan eyeshadow palettes, and this one is going to round out the series. Like all the other LimeCrime palettes, it does come inside this plastic outer packaging, and here is your palette itself. On the backside, you have information about the ingredients, the shelf life, and so on. Looking at the back, you do have a 12-month shelf life on this palette. It is a certified vegan and cruelty-free product. You have 12.88 grams total product, so each specific shade will be 1.61 grams of product. When you open up the palette, this is what your shades look like. It is definitely a cool tone palette. You do have a mirror on the inside, and this is LimeCrime's typical more bulky packaging. In general, a criticism that I've always had of this type of eyeshadow palette is that it is unnecessarily bulky. It is quite thick. The usage of space inside is fine, but I just think that it's a little bit deeper than it necessarily has to be, so it takes up a little bit of room in your eyeshadow palette collection for 8 shades. But even so, the packaging is quite nice, and they are all cohesively themed with the Venus theme throughout their entire collection. I fear cool tones. I feel like they wash me out a little bit. They age me a little bit. It's harder for me to work with them than other types of shadows, and generally I don't gravitate towards them. They go very contrary to my natural undertone, and I fear them. However, I am a completionist at heart. I have all of the other 8 pan Venus palettes. I have the 2 XL ones, and I have a couple of the minis as well. And so when this was released as the final installment in the Venus series, I knew I was gonna have to pick it up. It retails for $38. I picked mine up from Ulta Beauty, and I played with it a little bit. I didn't do like a full look. This is my first like full look that I've been wearing for a significant amount of time, but I played with the eyeshadows, and they are the typical LimeCrime formula. I want to show you some swatches. However, please don't be alarmed at the swatches. If you know the LimeCrime formula, you know that they don't swatch very well, but they apply beautifully with a brush. So I definitely recommend you stay tuned to the end of the video so you can see how I created the eye look, and you can see that some of the shades that really don't show up in a swatch apply beautifully to the eye with a brush. So you do have a variety of finishes. You have some very nice mattes. The shades Unseen, Unveil, Ash, Cameo are matte shades. The shades Moth and Marble, they're a little bit more of a satin finish, and your metallics are going to be Echo and Hail. This is definitely a far cry from the other Venus eyeshadow palettes. The first one was very warm. The second one was really the original Subculture. It has that sort of green gold vibe. And the third was more pinky purple. So this is definitely unique in their color story. One additional note about the packaging does glow in the dark. If you turn out the lights, like you'll see this glowing, and it's cute. It's unnecessary in my opinion, because I don't know about you, but I'm never doing my makeup in the dark, even though sometimes it might look like I do. I don't. So that kind of thing is lost on me, but it's a cute touch nonetheless. As I mentioned, the palette retails for $38, and I hate to say this, but this is a brand that frequently goes on sale for about half off. I think the other palettes that I bought, at least the ones in this size, I paid half price for them, so I got them all for $19 a piece, and I think $19 is a little bit more reasonable of a price for an 8 pan eyeshadow palette, even though I really can't question the formula. I like the LimeCrime formula. The Venus Venus XL1 is one of my absolute favorite palettes of all time. So I actually really enjoy the formula. It's just if you can pay a little less, why not, right? And it's sad, but it's the truth. So I want to let you know that if you have your eye on this one, it might go on sale. So just keep your eye out. Those are the general details about the palette. I will go ahead and switch so that you can see how I created the eye look. It's so easy to complete, and I think it did turn out nice. It's one of those cool tone looks that I feel a little bit more comfortable wearing, and I paired it with a peachier blush to sort of like give me a little life. So let's go ahead and cut to those clips, and I'll be back at the end to give you my final thoughts. For my initial transition, I'm going to take an Esom S33 brush, and I'm going to start with the shade Cameo. I'm just going to apply this shade from the inner and outer crease, just blended. It's a shade that's just slightly lighter than my skin tone, so I don't have to be too clean about this. I really just want something for my shadows to blend into. And to prime my eyes today, I use just concealer. My concealer today was the Cover FX concealer, and I set that down with the powder I used for my face, which was the Charlotte Tilbury Magic Powder. To create the depths on the inner and outer corner, I'm going to take another Esom S33. I love this brush so much because it's small and I do have smaller eyes, so it makes creating halo eyes really, really easy. So I'm taking the shade Ash, and I'm just going to apply that to the inner and outer corner. I'm going to use tapping motions first to deposit the color, and then I will blend out the edges. I like that this brush is pointed because I don't want to bring too much darkness to my inner corner, but I do want it to be a halo eye, and small brushes like this make it an easy process. This is also a natural hair brush, so it really grabs onto the color until I place it exactly where I want it, so I don't have to worry too much about fallout. Once I have that shade pretty much where I want it on the inner and outer part of my eyes, I'm going to connect it kind of in a rainbow or windshield washer motion, just very softly. For the spotlight portion of my eye, I'm going to use a MAC 239, and I'm going to use one side for the lighter color and the other side for the darker color. I'm going to start with the lighter of the two, which is the shade Hail. This one is a little more silvery, and the other shade I'm going to use, which is Echo, is a little bit more on the taupey side. I'm taking the shade completely dry so that you can see how it performs on its own. LimeCrime shadows do foil very nicely, so of course if you apply it with a little bit of setting spray, you're going to get even more intensity, but I'm not one bit angry at how this looks. I think it looks really nice. And that was achieved with just one dip of the brush. So I'm going to take the other side of the brush, and I'm going to use this shade Echo, and I'm going to use that to blend on the outsides of the spotlight, just a little bit. This shade is a little bit more on the taupe side and a little less retro than the silver. So I think that for slightly less dramatic looks, I would probably use this shade on the lid. I think it's a really pretty color. It is retro in its own right. I remember like in 2015 or so, it was all the rage on YouTube to use like a metallic taupe shadow all over the lid. I didn't partake too much in that trend because I've honestly always feared cool tones. I feel like they don't look that great on me. So once those shadows are down, I do re-intensify the Ash shade, just right out here in the corner. And again, I'm using those tapping motions. And then I'm going to take the brush and run it just along the top after most of the color has been deposited. On the brow bone, I used the flat side of my Luxie 182 brush and the shade Marble. This is not my favorite shade in the palette. I find it a little bit chalky, but I can use it for a brow bone highlight. If you have a lighter skin tone, you'll probably enjoy that shade more than I do. Just to make sure that it's really well blended, I'm going to take a little bit more of the Cameo shade, and I'm going to blend that in between the two shades, just so it doesn't have that really stark contrast. I'm noticing in my viewfinder that my screen is going lighter and darker. I'm trying to really zoom in so that you can see what I'm doing on my eyes, but it makes it a little more sensitive to light as well. In any case, I'm going to take the shade Unseen on a Scott Barnes 60 brush, and I'm just going to use this to line along my upper lash line. I'm not wearing falsies today, and I like to do this to make my lashes look a little bit thicker. Next, I'm going to take a Sonia G Pencil 1, and I'm going to use the shade Ash on the lower lash line. I'm just going to apply that on the inner and outer thirds. Lastly, I'm going to take the shade Hail and apply it just in the center. I have just the tiniest amount of fallout, but since my makeup has been set, I can easily brush that away. That's the basis for the eye look. I'm going to complete it with a little bit of black liner along the upper rim, and then on the inner waterline, I'm only going to line where I put the gray, if you can see on this side. I didn't put it in the center because I really wanted to highlight that spotlight eye, and I can't go too far down on my eye. Again, I have smaller eyes, so I just do the inside and outside. My mascaras were, I used the Givenchy Lash Primer and the Charlotte Tilbury Legendary Lashes Volume 2 MAC Extended Play on the lower lash line. And today's lip color is Dose of Colors, and this is a liquid lipstick in the shade Stone. This was a really popular shade a couple of years ago. I think people still like it. When I see it on other people, it looks a little bit more like a nude. On me, it definitely pulls really, really bright pink, which is interesting. I think it's just the pigmentation of my lips in general. But I'm going to finish my eyes off camera, and I will be back with my final thoughts. I hope you enjoyed seeing that demo, and I did convince you that the way that the eyeshadow swatch is absolutely nothing compared to how they apply on the eyes. As I mentioned, I was not using a sticky base at all. I was using completely set concealer, and that's how they apply to a dry eyelid. I absolutely love the LimeCrime formula. I think it wears really well throughout the day, and I personally apply my makeup with brushes. It performs very well with brushes, so I try not to let the swatches sort of lead me away from trying out the brand. It really is a beautiful eyeshadow formula. In general, if this is a color story that calls out to you, I definitely would recommend the eyeshadow palette. But again, like I said, it is a brand that frequently goes on sale, and so if you're not in a hurry, maybe waiting a little while might pay off for you. I hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts on the eyeshadow palette, seeing how I created the look. If you have any questions that I didn't answer throughout the video, leave those for me in the comment section down below. I'd be happy to help you out as best as I can. If you did enjoy my video, please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up for me. I really appreciate it. And don't forget to join me really, really soon for my next video, which will be in the next couple of days. I hope you're doing really well, and I look forward to seeing you then. Bye-bye.